Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Niette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Niette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, from our Pontchartrain Production Studios here on a beautiful day in New Orleans, at least right now. We'll get some rain a little bit later on in the day, and then, of course, we'll get some cooler temperatures through the weekend. Just a great time to be able to talk about, again, what's happening with all the home teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pels. We'll talk a little college basketball as well. We'll talk about the Walker Howard situation, and to break it down for us, one of the best we have in the city. Again, one of the senior members of our media, sports media here as well, Jeff Duncan of Noel.com and the Times-Picayune, also again contributor to Fox 8 Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Senior member, man, that's hitting me right between the eyes. I remember when I started the Picayune back in '99, and with the great Dave Lagarde and Peter Finney and Bob Russell were still there. I was the young cat coming up. I was the young guy. Now, you're right, I've graduated to senior status.
Well, again, look, I said the same thing about Les East and Renee the other day because, again, you guys have seen a lot. You've seen a lot of what's happened in this town in terms of sports. You've seen the evolution. You've seen, obviously, pro basketball come back to New Orleans. Again, the glory years of the Saints. LSU winning a couple titles in that dome. Now the resurgence of Tulane. I mean, so much has happened since '99 when you first got here.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty much the golden age of New Orleans sports. So I've been really fortunate. Yeah. I mean, the first year I covered the Saints beat was 2000. They won their first playoff game. Right. They had that magical season with Jim Haslett. And so I didn't see all the grim Ditka years and all the ups and downs before that. But I have an affinity for the old school Saints fans. Not the new dats, as we call it, because they were there during the thick and the thin, right? Most of the thin, but they understand that there's a lot of thin years before they got to the great Breeze Peyton era.
Right, new dats, I like that. I have not heard that term, but it is so true. And I'm one of those old school guys. I got my season tickets in 1981. I was 21 years old. Myself, Mike Vazan, his wife, my brother, another friend, all went down to the old Uptown Square, right? They were selling Saints season tickets there out of, I think, the Holmes building, the Holmes department store. Right? And we all got our season tickets, we're all in our early 20s. And of course, we've had them since 1981. And, most of us have been around since 66, 67, and we saw the lean years, and that's what I wonder is going to happen now as we transition, without Sean Payton here, and there may be some lean years. How many of those new dats are going to stick with this team where, again, in the past, original Saints fans, they were there through thick and thin. You can talk about the bad years all you want, but they were still showing up.
Yep. Yeah, people have told me that a bunch about how no matter what, even if they had bags on their head, they were there.
They were there.
Butts were in the seats. And look, I think historically, if you look at the NFL, you see that when a generational quarterback like a Drew Brees leaves, there is a precipitous drop-off. I think I've written about this before. I think the average drop-off in win totals, 4.5 wins from the previous year when the Hall of Fame quarterback retires. That's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Saints were winning about 13, 12 games with Drew Brees, and they've gone down to 9, 8, now 7. So it shouldn't shock anybody, but I think we all got a little spoiled by that success because the Saints made it look so easy during those years.
Right, and of course, people forget, it wasn't, first year out of Peyton, really great year, then kind of leveled off, and then of course you went up by 2009. Obviously, you get the Super Bowl year, and then you're pretty good for a while, and then you had those 3 7-9 years, and then you bounced back. So there was a little bit of a stock market, but not as much. For the most part, again, you knew this team was a winner, or you always felt with Brees behind center that you had a chance to win.
Yeah, and that's what a great quarterback does. It gives confidence to everyone in the building, not just the other players and coaches, but the people in the front office. I mean, everyone walks a little taller, looks you in the eye. That's what Drew Brees did, and I think he raised the standard for everyone there. And there was ups and downs, and I remember when my first year covering the NFL was in Tennessee before I moved to New Orleans. I covered the Titans when they moved to Nashville. I remember Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese telling me, in the salary cap era, it's almost impossible to sustain success over a long period of time. Inevitably, there's going to be some dips, and he said you want those dips to be 7 and 9, 8 and 8. You're still competitive, you're in it, but you're not really a threat to win the Super Bowl. But you're still playing relevant games. And I think the Saints have done an incredible job of that for a decade and a half now, where they really have not ever been just completely out of it. 3 and 13. The one Katrina season's an outlier.
Yes, it is.
And I think that really speaks to the management and the ownership more than anything else. I know they haven't won as many Super Bowls as they'd like, but they've always been relevant.
Right. If you say there's one thing that you can look back on, this team should have more than one Super Bowl. Other than that, again, the ability to be able to sustain a winning program for so long is something you don't see a lot. And look, a lot of times teams get better because they go 3 and 13 for a couple of years, and they're at the top of the draft. They're able to stockpile. You can look around the NFL right now. Some of these teams that are coming up, they've stockpiled draft choices over a few years, and now as those teams have matured and they're starting to play much better, they become contenders.
Well, a good example would be like the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Exactly.
When you watch that team play, you can see the talent. There's a lot of talent on the team. They have a lot of high draft picks.
Right.
And they just needed someone like Doug Peterson to come in and give direction and leadership and vision. And we see where they're going. I wouldn't want to play Jacksonville in these playoffs.
Right.
And I think if you're a Jaguars fan, you should feel pretty optimistic about the future.
I agree with you. Saints fans right now, I'm not sure how they're feeling about the future right now. Jeff, you and I, look, it's funny. I read your stuff every day. I share that on all my social media platforms. You've been a great friend. You're always, again, as a colleague, always give me all your time on radio and TV. We differ on the situation with the Saints right now as far as Dennis Allen. If I was Mickey Loomis, I would take a look at this situation and say continuity was what we were trying to be able to utilize to be able to continue again along the winning ways. It didn't happen, and maybe again we need a fresh look or a fresh face to be able to come in and take over the team. You don't feel that way. Tell the audience why you think Dennis Allen should return.
Oh, I don't think I've said that. I've said this is what the Saints are doing.
Okay, all right then.
Yeah, this is what they're doing.
So what is your opinion then?
Well, I mean, I think they had an opportunity. I wrote a column basically saying they had an opportunity to get in the Sean Payton sweepstakes, and they're just not going to get in it. I mean, they're going to be loyal to Dennis Allen. I understand that. I mean, they have great loyalty there throughout the organization.
True.
They feel like 1 year is not enough, and they want to give Dennis Allen more time to rebuild this program. I don't know why they feel like they need to rebuild when that was the whole point of the continuity.
Right.
But that's the direction they're going. Now, it's a big chunk of change to write a check to make Dennis Allen go away. So that's a consideration.
Right.
You got a 4-year deal. So if he's not coming back, you have to pay him off.
Sure.
So I think that's a significant hurdle for them, in addition to the fact out of principle they feel like 1 year was not enough.
Okay.
So that is where I stand on that. I think if you've got a chance to get Sean Payton, you get him.
Right.
My opinion is he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's the best coach I've ever covered, and he is open to coming back. You do it, but I also understand they don't feel like that's fair to Dennis Allen. So that's where I think all that stands.
It's funny you say that because it was kind of the same situation with LSU and Nick Saban when he wanted to come back into college football after leaving there. Les Miles had just won a championship with his players. LSU felt, hey, I can't get rid of a national championship coach. They didn't do it. He goes to Alabama, and Alabama becomes, again, a legacy program once again. You're in a situation pretty much now where what you're telling me is Sean Payton may want to come back, but the Saints are saying now that they're not interested?
Well, what they're not saying they're not interested. They're saying we've got a coach.
Right.
We've got a head coach, and they do not want to move on from Dennis Allen right now. And I don't think it's as cut and dried as Sean Payton. I want to come back. He's open to coming back.
Okay.
There's a difference. He's not saying that's the only place I'm coming back to.
No, I understand.
Saying there's other options, but definitely New Orleans is one I consider. And I don't think a lot of people know that. I mean, that's why I wrote the column a month ago saying he's open to it and it's a consideration for him, but only if things went sideways. And I think that's something that people need to understand. He's not, being the boogeyman to Dennis Allen. He wants Dennis Allen to be successful.
Sure.
He hired Dennis. He very much wants the Saints to be successful. But if things did fall apart and they did move on, he would definitely be open to coming back. And I don't think a lot of people knew that.
No, and I don't think a lot of people knew that at all. And it's still today, with that maybe as a possible piece, it's kind of mind-blowing that you would not really consider that at this point. You know, especially, again, the winningest coach in the history of the organization. What we know he is in terms of master motivator. Again, he changed the whole dynamics of the franchise. From the team to, again, the layout of the practice facility, access. I mean, he single-handedly kind of changed everything on Airline Drive.
Yeah, I think where Sean Payton's, at least in my dealings with him, where he separates himself from most coaches is beyond the X's and O's, which are, speak for themselves. His offensive acumen is one of, I think, stacks up with anybody in the history of the NFL. But more than that, it's the other stuff. It's the intangibles, the leadership qualities, the psychologist that he is, dealing with sometimes high maintenance players like a Michael Thomas or a Jeremy Shockey. His ability to have vision, big picture vision, and I think the confidence and aggressiveness to make things happen. I mean, that's something the organization didn't have. Someone that could go out and get a Drew Brees and out-recruit Nick Saban for Drew Brees. There's no one's ever come to town like that. And I think that's something that they're missing right now. And I think if you got a chance to get that guy back in the building, you do it at all costs. Even though I do think Dennis Allen's a good coach. I think he's probably getting a little bit of short shift from fans because he's in the shadow of Sean Payton. But I think if you got a chance, you do it because it's business. It's not personal.
I agree.
You do it. But I'm not running the New Orleans Saints.
Well, if you were, if we see Sean Payton coming back. I'm going to get to the Saints in a moment, but let's stay with Sean Payton for a moment. Possible landing spots. Houston has, I think, the best package. They have the second overall pick, which I don't think they're giving up for Sean Payton. But again, if Sean Payton goes somewhere, he's going to want to have draft picks. He's going to want to go to a place where, again, he be devoid of draft picks for a couple seasons, and that he can't continue to try to build that franchise. They also have the 12th overall pick from Cleveland. They have 2 more number 1 picks from Cleveland as well over the next couple of years to go along with their first round picks. Their second round pick this year is the 33rd overall. That to me right now, if you looked at any of the teams that are out there, is the best package. Arizona has their first overall pick, which is the 3rd overall. Their second round pick is the 35th. Denver has the 20th overall pick. Again, it's really there's a forfeit from Miami. So they've also got 2 3rd round picks, 68 and 69. They have a 2024 first round pick. The Chargers have all their 2024 picks, 25th overall, but really it's 24th because of the forfeit of Miami's pick. Dallas is 26th overall, but 25th overall, and has all their picks. Of all of those teams that are out there, what's the best deal for New Orleans? What is the best deal for Sean Payton, in your opinion?
Well, I think those are all important considerations. I don't think they're near the top for him. I think the top for him is going to be who he's working with and can they win with the general manager that's in place, or can he bring in his own general manager? Is the owner someone that's going to meddle? Is it someone that's going to let him do his job and the football people like they did here? That's a big thing for him. So where can he win? Where can he be successful? Yes, those are things that are important. Obviously, it gives you a leg up with those draft picks.
Saints.
Yeah, well, exactly. But for Sean Payton, he's looking at where can I go win? And so I think those people, the people in place, the ability to put the people he wants to bring with him in place, those things I think are going to be the most important. I'm not sure that there's one out there that's a perfect spot. There's probably never going to be the perfect spot. I would say Dallas is the one that would be the one, because he could walk in there, I think, and they could win a Super Bowl next year. That's how talented that roster is. But they've got a good head coach there right now, and Mike McCarthy, they're winning big. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think the ability to coach Justin Herbert is very appealing to him.
Yes.
It's a generational quarterback. He's liking living out in LA right now. That's where Sean's living right now in Manhattan Beach. So that would be obviously an appealing place. But that's not going to open either. I don't think Brandon Staley's gotten them in the playoffs. So I don't see any really things that stand out. I mean, the Houston Texans, I think in some ways a lot of people would be surprised that might be appealing to him. But it's pretty much a clean slate. You mentioned all the draft picks. They don't really have a bad quarterback situation. I think when people talk about the quarterbacks, they're really overrating that. He's not going to look at who's the quarterback. I think what would be a detriment would be if you've got a bad quarterback situation that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
He's a confident human being. There wasn't a quarterback here when he came here and he got Drew Brees. He's confident he'll get a quarterback.
Right.
So I don't think that's the priority. But if there's a superstar like a Mahomes or a Herbert, yes, that's obviously in place. But I think the worst thing would be if you've got like a bad quarterback that you're locked into, that might be a detriment to him winning. So those are the things he's looking at. Bigger picture, much more down the road than just what's in place right now. He thinks he can win. That's just the way he's wired. So
how do you think this process is going to work next week on the 17th when he has the ability to be able to interview? Is it going to be the Saints saying, hey, this is the best package and we want this? Or is it going to be Sean Payton saying, this is where I want to go and this is the package?
The latter. He's going to decide. And look, a team's got to want him.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, a team's going to have to make a consideration also that it's going to cost them something to get him. That's going to factor into their equation. I know a few years back when there was a lot of rumors going around about maybe the Rams and 49ers having interest in him, which not really rumors, it was the truth. Those organizations said, we don't want to give up what we have to give up to get Sean Payton. And they went with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay.
Right.
So that's going to be a factor that you can hire an assistant coach and not have to give up your number 2 pick in the draft or number 12.
So that's one of the reasons why they bring up the Rams, because they really don't have the capital that would be necessary to be able to bring in a Sean Payton. They don't have number 1 picks. Right.
Look, there could be future picks that could be part of the deal, but if I'm Mickey Loomis, I'm trying to get a pick in this year's draft.
Oh, you have to.
And I really, if you sat here and asked me right now what I think, I don't think he's going to coach anywhere next year. I think he'll sit out another year.
He's going back to Fox.
Yeah, so I think he's happy doing that. I don't see a really perfect situation. I think the market might clear up better next year, and then he finds out, where he wants to go. I think maybe Dallas opens next year. Maybe the Saints opens next year.
That was going to be my next
You never know. I mean, I think the market right now is there's not any really home run for Sean Payton.
So you really think there's a really good possibility he may say, you know what, none of this really appeals to me in terms of teams. I'm going to sit out another year.
Well, I mean, he just said the other day on Fox that, the 1 to 10 scale, what's the chances he'd be back? He said 7.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you take it. I think people read sometimes way too much into Sean Payton. They think he's crafty and he's saying all these things. It's totally not true. Sean Payton early in his career was much like that.
Absolutely.
Late in his career, he was pretty straightforward guy. And I think you have to take him at his word right now, what he's saying. There's no real reason for him to be lying about anything. There's no agenda. There's no reason.
No.
There's no. He gets nothing out of it. Now, when he tells you so-and-so's not hurt and he's coaching the team and he is hurt, there's a reason for that. There's an agenda to that. He's trying to win. Right now, there's no real reasoning for him to to be misleading anybody.
Well, and he's undefeated. I mean, again, as long as he stays behind that dais, he's undefeated. And then again, people are going to, more and more teams are going to be, if they have an opening, obviously Sean Payton's going to be at the top of their list.
Here's what I would say. Look, we've all been to job interviews.
Right.
We've all, been on dates, if you will. It's basically what he's doing. He's trying to get married here to a team. You go in with one thinking, but you can get there on a date or you can get on a job interview and all of a sudden everything changes. It could change. He could go in, think, I'm really interested in this, and this is what happened in New Orleans. He was set to go to Green Bay.
Right.
He gets to meet Mickey, suddenly really connects with Mickey Loomis, and Green Bay goes in another direction, and he ends up coming here. Things change. So I don't think Sean's going into this with any preconceived notion. I think he's going to go in open-minded, and he may fall in love with a place and go. And it could be somebody you don't really think he would go to. Arizona's one that I've been told he doesn't see himself at. But it might change when he gets in the building and meets the people there. Things change. There's no, I don't think, plan in this. If you know Sean Payton, he's not necessarily the most planner. That's not his strength. I think he's going to go in and listen, and if it's not something he's really, really sold on, I think he'll be happy going back to Fox.
What's the timeline, you think? Obviously, 17th is when he can interview. Do you think that we'll know something within the next 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, it depends on the teams. They may have other interviews lined up. They may want to interview coaches.
Right. Well, they have to interview minority candidates no matter what.
Right. And they've got, there may be some candidates on these NFL teams. Look how long it took the Saints last year to decide on Dennis Allen. It went way into February. So I think it could take a little while. And I don't see why that really matters too much for Sean. I mean, he's not going anywhere right now.
No doubt. Let's talk about the Saints. What happened, in your opinion, this season? Is this an underachieving team? Is this an aging team? Is this a team that was not motivated? When you look at the big picture of what happened this year, what's your synopsis?
I would say maybe all the above. All those things contributed. I think there's some bad luck with some injuries. We've seen that now for 2 years. That goes around the league. I think the quarterback situation was not conducive to winning at a high level. I think they were playing with 2 backup quarterbacks the whole year. So when you got into elite company, you didn't measure up in the most important position in the game. And I think they had a few players, key players, that were going to be the core of this team that were on second contracts, right? And with the people that Mickey Loomis and Dennis Allen decide this is going to be our core, Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, Michael Thomas, those are the 3 of the highest paid players on the team. And they didn't get much out of any of those 3. Lattimore was out almost the whole year, at least 2/3 of the year. Mike Thomas missed more than that. And Kamara had a down year, certainly not the production we expect from him. So I think those factors all added up to a team that went 7-10. They were in most of their games. They didn't get routed a lot, but they lacked the ability to finish games. And I think there was a little bit of probably the first half of the year trying to figure out what their identity was going to be with the new head coach, 2 new co-coordinators, a new play caller on offense. All those things caused them to kind of spin their wheels early. And then when they kind of figured out their identity in the second half of the season, they were in too deep a hole.
Biggest surprise to me was their lack of attention to detail with a team, with a veteran team. The mistakes that were made, the self-inflicted wounds that seem to happen almost every single game.
Right, and that's what losing teams do. I've covered a lot of these kind of teams. When you start hearing the language after a game of, we're close, we're only a few plays, we didn't finish, we didn't make the plays, that's what losing teams do. That's going on all over the league. That's an excuse. It's something that's never going to get solved. You're always going to have that. And to me, great teams figure out how to win those games, and this team was far from it. And they just weren't in that same caliber when they lined up against the Ravens. They weren't on the same level. And I think in my column I wrote the other day, I was pretty adamant about this. They can't live in denial here. In some ways, I think that 3-game winning streak could have done more harm than good.
I agree.
Because I think everyone in the building started feeling good about themselves. They got things figured out. This historically bad division did them no favors because everyone's thinking, oh, we're only 1 win away from being in the playoffs. Well, you're also about 2 losses away from being the worst team in the league.
Yes.
And I've always said, look down, don't look up. Everyone was looking up at the Bucs 1 game ahead, but they're one of the worst division leaders in the history of the NFL.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, this team's got a lot further to go than they think. They think they're a lot closer than I believe.
Other than the fact that Dennis Allen grew up in this organization, that Dennis Allen, obviously, again, there's some loyalty there, and Dennis Allen had a 1 year. Was 1 year. Why should they bring him back?
Well, I mean, they got a 4-year contract with him. It's a lot of money. So, I mean, you're going to give him a shot. I mean, 1 year is pretty quick. I don't know of anybody in the league that.
Well, Lovie Smith got canned after 1 year.
Yeah, but I don't think he had a 4-year, whatever they're paying Dennis.
Right.
And I think everybody knew Lovie was kind of a 1-year deal. And so this organization's different. This organization's always been about loyalty and stability. I know, Stan Van Gundy got 1 year, and that was different.
Yes.
But I personally think when you've got a chance to do that, you do. But I also understand what they're thinking. I think 2 or 3 years from now, we may look back and see this was a big mistake.
Right.
But understand why they're going the direction they're going.
To me, this season uncovered a lot of warts on this team. Maybe some overestimation of again, some of that personnel. Offensive defensive lines is what they put a lot of draft stock, a lot of money into, and those are the issues that really cropped up throughout the season. I think when you look at the defensive line, the inability to stop the run up the middle, that was an Achilles heel. Putting 4 number 1 picks into Turner and Davenport where they didn't pan out, and you got an undrafted free agent in Granderson who outplays them on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, now you've got Penning now with 2 injuries to his feet, where he's going to have surgery. As Ruiz, they say this was the best year he had, but again, when you compare him to other guards, is he really a good guard at that point? Pete, often injured, inconsistent, and of course Ramczyk, as good as he is, again, the injuries have taken their toll on him. McCoy looks like the best player on that line right now, outside of Ramczyk when he's healthy. To me, that has to be outside of quarterback. Those have to be the two areas where they have to be able to upgrade in the offseason. I'd like to get your thoughts.
Well, I think defensive tackle is definitely an area that they know they need to get better at, and almost every one of those guys is an unrestricted free agent. I mean, this team has, I think, 26 unrestricted free agents, including a lot of core players, a lot of good players that I know they want back. How creative they can get in this offseason to try and crunch those numbers. We know those guys are good at that. But that's going to be big this offseason, identifying the new core, which I think has developed this year. There's a lot of young Caden Ellis, Carl Granderson you mentioned. Those guys, I think, are part of the future of this team if they can get them back in the building. But there's going to be a market for them. And I think the goal right now, that deal with Mike Thomas, I think part of the reason they did that was to have the cap room to try and get those guys locked up before free agency.
Right.
And so if they can do that, that's a big step in the right direction. I agree with you about the line play. I think they're okay, though, on the line. I'll be shocked if Andres Pete's back here. I think he's definitely going to be a cap casualty.
Right.
Then you're looking at a guard situation, but I think we saw where they're going with that. I think James Hurst is going to be the left guard. Penning will be the left tackle. So I think your starting line's fine. I think your defensive line's fine if you get somebody in the defensive interior. I think those are areas they can get better at. I think all of it gets better if you got a better quarterback.
Yes.
And right now, they don't have a quarterback, at least under contract, that I think is going to go forward.
So you think that's job one?
Oh, no. Well, no. I think identifying what you want to be offensively, what your philosophy is, what direction you want to go. Part of what I think happened here was Pete Carmichael really didn't want to be the offensive coordinator. They couldn't find somebody better. He's a team player. He stepped in to do it. It has not worked out very well. Part of that, though, is this team, and I remember back in training camp, being at camp, and everyone was all caught up in the headiness of Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry and Mike Thomas coming back, and people were acting like this was going to be some reincarnation of 2011 Saints, and I'm like, this is not going to be what they're going to be. Like the Jim Morris Saints. This is going to be a defensive-minded team that plays a lot of close games and wins 20-17. That's exactly what they were down the stretch. And people were thinking this was going to be the old Sean Payton, Drew Brees days. And I think by keeping Pete Carmichael here and running the same offense, it didn't really marry up with the head coach's philosophy, which is we're going to be defensive minded.
Right.
We're going to run the ball, control the clock, pound you with our running game. I think they need to figure out what they want to be offensively. Then you figure out who your quarterback is.
Well, that's the case. Then they have to get a big back, number one. They don't have that.
Right.
Latavius Murray got out the building, and they were searching for it ever since he walked out the door. Mark Ingram, obviously, long in the tooth, couldn't get it done on a consistent basis. Let's talk about the coaching staff and what it may look like next year. Do you think Carmichael stays in another role, or do you think that, again, he ends up somewhere else, maybe with Sean Payton if he ends up with another team?
I think both those options are going to be there for him. I think he might even be able to come back
as the OC?
Yeah, I think he could maybe do that with maybe a co-offensive coordinator. I think there's all these things will be on the table. I don't think they even know right now what they're going to do. I think they need to figure out what they want to be offensively. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement on this staff. I think there's going to be some guys get other jobs. I think there's going to be some guys that move on both sides of the ball.
Me too.
I don't think this is going to be a status quo thing. And I think that could be a good thing because I think they could use some maybe fresh ideas in that building, some new blood in that building. The continuity, status quo, didn't really play out. Didn't work. You know, they're not in need of a complete overhaul, but they definitely need an influx of new ideas.
Right. If you're telling me Dennis Allen's coming back, well, then I'm saying Dennis Allen needs to get his own staff, because Dennis Allen inherited that staff. And again, if you're telling me he needs a second chance, well, then I say the second chance is let him have his guys. Okay. Now maybe some of those guys are his guys, but maybe they're not. And when you look at the situation with Carmichael right now, I don't know how you can bring him back with the ineptitude of the offense. Also, again, Ryan Nielsen and the defensive back coach,
Chris
Richard, both those guys are great coaches. But again, Dennis Allen calling the plays on Sunday, on game day, two defensive coordinators, too convoluted. I think you got to go with one defensive coordinator, and maybe Dennis Allen has to be the head coach instead of the guy calling the defense now. You know, maybe Sean Payton was able to do it, but everybody's not Sean Payton. Maybe they have to holistically look at everything they're doing right now and say, maybe again we got to tear this down a bit and give Allen a chance. If not, you're just trying to regurgitate the same thing over again. And I don't know how you're going to see much different than what we saw this year if you bring back exactly what you had in that coaching staff, because the penalties, the attention to detail, sometimes I think motivation, I don't think it was there in what we saw with Payton.
Yeah, I think they'll look at all those things. I think that's what they're doing right now. Internally, the brain trust. I know the coaches are all off this week. Dennis Allen's meeting with Loomis and the brain trust, and they'll all be back in the building. So I think we'll start hearing some news next week about some coaching moves, how they're going to adjust the staff, if they're adjust the staff. I think part of it also, look, you don't make decisions on fans and fan thinking, but I do think they have to consider the fact that you're going to try and sell the fan base next year on running it back with the same quarterback and the same offensive philosophy. I don't think that's going to work.
Well, I agree.
So I think, there's got to be some consideration of maybe bringing in a big name head coach. I compared it in my column the other day to when Sean brought in Greg Williams, when he brought in Dennis Allen, basically brought in a head coach for the defense.
Yes.
And let them run the show. I think they could do that offensively.
I agree.
And if you have a big name, I'm not saying Cliff Kingsbury's coming here, but somebody like that, where they're in charge of the offense, somebody with high profile, fresh ideas, then you can sell that to the public no matter who the quarterback is.
One of our viewers just asked Brian Johnson, offensive coordinator at Philadelphia. How about is he a possibility?
Yeah, well, I know he's well thought of around the league. Yeah, someone like that. I don't know if he's a big enough name to sell to the public, but Joe Brady certainly has a name here. Someone that could come in and just take over this offense and make it their own. I could see that happening. Then you figure out who your quarterback is that matches, whose skill set matches what you want to do offensively.
We agree so much. I agree 100% with you. I do not know how you sell this to season ticket holders if you run it back like it is. I think, again, the season ticket holders at the end of the season were selling their tickets for $9. Okay? And when you're paying thousands for season tickets, and ultimately, again, you put it on the secondary market, the best you get is $9, I think you got a problem. People are going to start to balk on that. Because it is the new dads. It's not the original Saints.
They were used to seeing records being broken, NFL records, 6 touchdowns in the game. And, it was the heady days of the Breeze Payton era, and all of a sudden this team's boring. I mean, there's just not a lot of excitement.
True.
And I know you can still win football games and everybody be happy, but when you're losing and you're boring, it's a bad combination.
Okay. How do they solve the quarterback position? That'll be my last question on the Saints before we move on.
That's a conundrum. I don't have a good answer on that. I mean, I think you've got to bring back a veteran. I think you go the route right now of the Titans or the Steelers, where you bring in a rookie maybe if you like one in the draft, but you have a veteran that is your guy until they're ready to go.
Right.
I mean, I personally would have loved to see them draft Kenny Pickett last year. I think there's going to be a lot of buyer's remorse on that, because that was a guy that I thought would have fit exactly what they want to do. There was people in the building that liked him, and they didn't use it. And so now I think we're going to be looking this year to maybe finding a rookie.
We throw a name out to you, Stetson Bennett.
I like Stetson Bennett. I don't know if the Saints do, though. You know, I like him. I mean, I like Hendon Hooker. He's coming off a major injury. I think someone like that's your long-term solution.
Right.
But you're still going to have.
Right.
And I think I'll be shocked if they don't pursue Andy Dalton. I know they like Andy Dalton. People in the building think he's a lot better than outside the building.
Yes.
And so I could see him being the transition
bridge guy.
Yeah, the bridge guy until the other rookie comes along. But they've got to get some draft picks if they're going to do that.
You know, Hooker and Bennett Hooker might be a second-round pick. Bennett might be a mid-round pick. You know, I mean, but you know, again, when you look at Bennett, Bennett's been a winner everywhere he's been, and he's got a lot of qualities that Breeze had. Now, again, is he Breeze? No, but he's got a lot of those qualities.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The evaluation you got to make on Bennett is he's on such a dominant team. You know how much of that is.
Yes.
I mean, you know, Breeze took Purdue to the Rose Bowl.
Right.
He wasn't surrounded by 5 stars.
True.
And he carried an entire program to heights they'd never been to before. Bennett's the exact opposite. You know, he's in the middle of an incredible. So it's a little different evaluation there. So that's why I think the hesitation would be with him. But still, he's a winner. I like where you're going in there.
We'll take a break here. We come back. We'll talk Pelicans. We'll talk LSU and Tulane football. And we'll also touch on college basketball, which is getting to get rolling here again with football season ending. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Jeff Duncan of Noel.com, the Times-Picayune, and also Fox 8 Sports, our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll be right back.
Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhardt has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhardt's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhardt's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jeff Duncan is our guest. Jeff, Pels 25-17. They're third in the West. They're 3.5 games back. They're second in the Southwest behind Memphis, who was I believe tied now still with who's leading right now. Completely drew a blank here out in the West. Denver in the West. Zion has been out. He looks like 2 more weeks, and they're going to reevaluate. Brandon's been out 7 weeks with the toe injury. Some say that, again, this is a really bad toe injury, and they don't know if he's going to come back. I've heard others say that he's on the other side and going to be cleared soon to be able to come back. The reserves have played well. I mean, they really have. You got to give them. They got a tremendous amount of depth on this team, and guys have had to come in and take on different roles, and they play well. The problem is when you get against the elite of the NBA, they don't have what it takes to get over the top. They're treading water right now. What are your thoughts on the Pels right now without those 2 superstars, and how long they can sustain what they're doing? January is a very tough schedule so far, and we're just in the infancy of it.
Well, I think they've got to get those guys back and get them healthy first and foremost, and get some continuity in the lineup. I mean, and to determine roles and rotations. That's been elusive all year long. So until I think their whole plan now almost sounds like post All-Star. They start over, right?
Right.
And I think
so
that's
trying to tread water till the All-Star.
Yeah, and how many games can you win? Right now, I mean, the rest of the Western Conference hasn't really run away from them.
No, not at all.
They have not taken advantage of the Pels' injuries, so that's a good thing for the Pelicans. I do think right before Zion's hamstring injury, we were seeing him emerge and blossom into the alpha on the team, which is what I believe this team needs.
Right.
First and foremost, they need him to take over this team. And he was doing that, and then he got hurt, so it's a setback. I've always felt this way. I've told people with the Pelicans. Early on they tried to make it out to be Drew Holiday's team. Yeah. Then it was like B.I.'s team. It's neither one of their teams. No. Zion Williamson is a unicorn, and he's the best talent on this team. I think he was getting comfortable being that guy. Right. He kind of wants to fit in a little bit. That's part of his nature. And I think he didn't want to step on toes, but he realized when Brandon Ingram was out, he had to.
Right.
And I think that was good for the team.
Well, the great thing about him is he's got that point guard mentality, okay? And you see that in his play now, especially now when he has the basketball. Again, he's not trying to be a bull and trying to cabinet, go to the hoop and try to challenge guys. He realizes with the basketball, the guys he has around him, that he can spread the basketball out. And that was really, he was playing an MVP level when he went out.
Yeah, and we saw that finally happen. The light came on, and he became the alpha. Now that's a setback. I mean, the worry I have with him is just the hamstring. Can't do much conditioning. We know he gets out of shape quickly.
Yes.
How I'm sure they're managing all that. But if they can just tread water here up to the All-Star break, get both those guys back. I don't know what's going on with Brandon Ingram. He must have had a setback. I don't know this, but
that's the rumor. He's had a setback.
And I think it's a real concern for the organization. I mean, he missed 27 games last year with a variety of injuries. He's been on the shelf this year for just as long. At some point, you got to be on the court. You've got your availability. You're the number 2 option on this team. They're a different team when he's healthy and scoring.
Absolutely.
And he gives them a shot, I think. I still think this year is all lanyard for this team. Down the road, I think they're going to be a championship contender. This year is all about getting that experience. They got it last year. Now they go forward, get a little deeper in the playoffs. There's still a young roster. There's a lot of talent. And I think the versatility that this lineup now gives them, the flexibility to withstand injuries, it's all been, I think, positive this year.
I agree with you. The one obstacle that you have in front of you is Memphis, though. And Memphis is a tough out for them. Just the way Memphis is built with the size. They have the same problem with Utah with the size. Okay? Now, Utah might be a situation they might make the playoffs, but you have to get through Memphis.
Yeah,
and they're in your own division.
And the thing that I like about Memphis is they're a mentally tough team. I mean, they've got a bunch of dogs on that team, and I mean that in a positive way.
Sure.
And I think that's something the Pels need a little more of. And I think we were seeing some of that until these last round of injuries. But I do think the depth that we're seeing, guys like Najee Marshall stepping forward. We've seen Trey Murphy take a step this year.
Alvarado.
Alvarado. I mean, that's the difference in this team and past teams. I mean, if you lost Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, you wouldn't even be competitive.
No.
And they play hard almost every night.
No doubt.
Really. I mean, that's a quality sign, and that's a testament to Willie Green and
I would agree.
He's built.
Which is one of the reasons why I don't want to go back to the Saints again. But again, you recognize a young and up-and-coming coach who had something special. You got him, you put him in the building, and of course, again, the team has rallied around him and are playing for him. I didn't see a lot of that with the Saints, but we'll table that for the next time you come on. Let's go to Tulane. Greatest. 1998 was fantastic, and I grew up in the late 70s when they had some really great teams, and again they beat LSU the first time in 25 years, and you saw the Rock Honus era as well. Again Vince Gibson beating LSU multiple times, but to me this was the greatest team in Tulane history, at least in my lifetime. We go back to the 30s when they were dominant in the SEC. There's nobody around now that remembers that. What are your thoughts when you look at this team as a whole?
Well, it was just a magical season. No one saw this coming. I mean, I know the Tulane people tell you, yeah, we knew we were going to be good. They didn't know they were going to be this good. This team was picked 7th in the conference before the season, 7th out of 11 teams. And to end up number 9 in the country and a legit number 9. I mean, there was nothing. The thing that I was most impressed with was there wasn't anything fluky about what they did. I mean, they beat a lot of good teams. Kansas State on the road, Cincinnati on the road, Central Florida here. I think the development of the defense, and I know they gave up a lot of points against Southern Cal, but Southern Cal's going to score on everybody. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. That guy's an incredible talent. That progress is where they made the biggest difference. They became legit on defense. They were rock solid over there. Chris Hampton did a great job. And I think Willie Fritz showed everyone in the country how good a coach he is. And what he's been able to do here, given the limitations and the restrictions that they face in a competitive environment in the American Athletic Conference against really universities that have totally different academic missions, Central Florida, Cincinnati, Memphis, Houston, really urban schools with a totally different academic mission. It's remarkable. It's one of the great coaching jobs I've ever seen. And Michael Pratt, I think, legitimately is a big-time college quarterback. He showed that. Tyjae Spears emerged as one of the best running backs in the country. There's legit talent there, and I think it's only going to keep getting better. By keeping Willie Fritz here, that was a huge step for the university. Now, is the university going to buy in? There's always been an issue at Tulane, in my opinion, as long as I've covered them, almost like the academic side didn't even want the athletic program to be good. And I think this may have opened up some eyes out there that this can be a good thing. We saw, I mean, that crowd at the Cotton Bowl was incredible. We haven't seen anything like that. They took over that stadium.
Athletics can help enrollment. We've seen this everywhere.
Exactly. And I think, so maybe this is a turning point for that program out there. And I think keeping Willie Fritz here was vital to keep that progress.
You know Troy Dannon as well as anybody in the media. You've interviewed him a lot. He seems to be a little bit ahead of the curve. He realized that his coach was going to be coveted. Again, Georgia Tech, twice the budget of Tulane in terms of athletics, twice the budget in terms of football. They have all the amenities that you need to be able to compete now in an NIL world. Obviously, he's moved forward on, again, there's going to be a practice facility at some point. This Fear the Wave collective that they have now, again, has got more money than it's ever had. Again, it's opened the eyes of deep-pocketed alumni all over the country, which are getting involved here so they can compete on an NIL level. It looks like, again, where a couple years ago it didn't seem like they could be on an even playing field, that they got a much better chance now holding on to Fritz, which was unprecedented, okay, and then now the opportunity to be able to have alumni paying attention to the athletic, not just football, but the athletic programs as a whole, because it is a different animal we're dealing with right now with NIL, the transfer portal, and to have the amenities that an athlete is looking for.
Yeah, well, now they're stepping up in class a little bit. I mean, they're going to try and, if you try to become a top 25 program year in, year out, I mean, you're going to have more resources, and I think that's what Willie Fritz wanted. He wants just like we went back earlier talking about what Sean Payton's looking for. It's the same thing Willie Fritz is looking for. It's the same thing every coach is looking for. They want to be able to win. They want to be successful. Are there hurdles being put up internally that prevent you from being able to win? I think he wanted some of those hurdles cleared. All those things you just talked about, the collective is important, I think, for them to retain their athletes here. Like Michael Pratt had opportunities to leave after this season.
Florida, Notre Dame.
Big time programs coming after him. Instead, they're going to be able to retain him because of the collective. And that's how they want to use it. Every program's using their collective in different ways. And I think it's smart for Tulane to reward players like that have been successful here. I think the sky's the limit for the program right now. I think you're going to start seeing transfer portal becoming a big thing for Tulane. Players that maybe came out of the state of Louisiana want to come back home. Now you see another option that's not just LSU. And I think this has opened up a lot of eyes of recruits to see, man, I can go to Tulane and be successful, get drafted, can play in a New Year's Day bowl game, and that stuff seemed impossible a few years ago.
I agree. I think that's a new niche there. Well, again, what he did this year with those 10 transfer portal players, a lot of those, 9 of those guys were Louisiana kids coming back home, having a second chance to play, and playing at a high level for this program, really put them over the top.
Totally agree.
And of course, again, look, Tyjae Spears was a guy that was injured at Ponchatoula. They kind of got a flyer on him, and again, he turns out to be, really an all-world player from that standpoint. And as you mentioned, keeping a guy like Michael Pratt and Hainsworth, again, with the two guys that mean a lot to the program. Now, they're graduating a lot of guys. There's going to be a little different team next year, but you got to like, again, the direction of the program. We'll start with LSU with Walker Howard. Yesterday announced he's going into the transfer portal. There's a lot of talk, TCU, Florida, maybe another SEC team. Maybe Auburn might be his destination. What happened there?
I just think he figured he wanted to get on the playing field sooner than he was going to be able to do that at LSU. Jaden Daniels coming back. Nussmeier clearly had beaten him out as the backup. This is the way of the world in college football now. I mean, especially at the quarterback position, those guys want to get on the field. Only one of them can get on the field at a time. It's different than every other position, and he wants to get on the field quicker. And he was going to be sitting on the bench probably for another year behind those two, and I think he wanted to accelerate, the production and playing time of a quarterback with that kind of ambition. I mean, he's a top elite recruit.
Right.
And I think it's nothing more than that. I don't think he was happy with some of the things that happened there, but I don't think that was, I think if one of those quarterbacks wasn't in the building for next year, I think he would be back.
Are you surprised he didn't wait till after spring?
No, I think he wants to get somewhere and start learning.
I mean,
now. I think he knew, I think he did this right thing. Once you learn that you're not going to be in the mix, in your opinion, you move on. It'd be, I think, bad to stay there.
Right. Of course, right now they have Daniels, they have Nussmeier, Collins coming in, the kid out of Baton Rouge, and then the 5-star Colin Hurley, who'll be coming in next year. Again, another 5-star that'll be part of the program, with Daniels moving on to probably the NFL. A lot of people thought maybe Nussmeier might have been the odd man out.
Right. We've been hearing that for a long time.
Right.
And I think Nussmeier's shown that, I mean, as soon as Jaden Daniels leaves, he's going to be the guy.
Right.
I mean, he's proven that he can play at that high level. So I totally get what Walker Howard did. It was amazing to me that they had that kind of talent, and it's a good problem to have for LSU. I mean, there were years where they never had anybody as good as any of those three.
Yes.
And it was amazing to me how they could not solve the quarterback problem there for so many years, but a lot of that had to do with the offense they were running. It wasn't very attractive to top quarterbacks.
Is this about Kelly wanting a veteran quarterback, again, rather than, maybe, holding on? Daniels coming in was going to be a one-year guy. Again, obviously he wanted some stability with a veteran quarterback. And then if you got a second chance with him now, you take him, you bring him back, and you roll the dice that maybe, again, a Howard might stick or he might not?
Well, I mean, I think Jaden Daniels won the job last year. I think he came here with lots of great credentials, won the job. I think he proved he was the guy. And it's just going to be fallout. It happens at every major college
especially now with the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Clemson, the number one recruit in the country is in the transfer portal. And
look at Georgia. Look at Georgia. I mean, again, with Bennett. Once Bennett, was entrenched.
Justin Fields,
love. Exactly.
Became a top 10 recruit. It's the way of the world at the highest level.
Talk about the season as a whole. The foundation year of 10 wins, SEC West champs, going to the SEC championship, in a New Year's Day bowl, with a team that had 39 scholarship players to start the year. Yeah,
well, I just remember being in the Superdome press box at that Florida State game and looking at the 2-deep roster, and 13 players in the 2-deep for LSU were from the transfer portal, either starting or a primary backup. That should never happen at a program of that level. That shows you how far down they were. And it was an amazing coaching job, I thought, by Brian Kelly. Everybody was up in arms when they lost to Florida State. Florida State was a good team. Look back, I mean, I think they've ended up ranked 12th in the country or 13th. So that was not, I didn't understand that panic at the time, but I think they proved as the season went on, they made the right adjustments. They made in-game adjustments during the season. We saw the team get better in the second half of almost every game. And they far surpassed expectations of every LSU fan. And I had anticipated that they could do that. I mean, I was high on Brian Kelly. That was a home run hire. And I think we're seeing it play out.
I've said it from the beginning. As close to Nick Saban as you can get, that's Brian Kelly. What Saban did in coming in and laying that foundation, which really stayed around for over a decade. When you look at what Les Miles was able to do, even again from there, what also again with what Orgeron was able to do for picking it up with Miles, that foundation I think is back now again. I think they can be. They ended up 15th and 16th in the polls this year, so it'll be interesting to see again, where they land up to start the season. But I think they're going to be able to be a preseason top 10 team.
No reason why they shouldn't. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
Once you clear your throat, this is what we're going to do. We're going to switch off to college basketball, and I'll quickly go through the records right now. LSU is 12-4. They're 1-2 in the SEC. Tulane is 11-5. They're 4-1 in the American Athletic Conference. UNO is 8-8. They are 2-1 in the Southland. I'll go through the rest of the Southland as well, the local schools. SLU is 6-11, but they're 2-1 in the Southland. Nichols is 5-9, 2-1 in the Southland. And Loyola, once again, new coach, lost most of their players, 13-2, undefeated in their conference as well. You and I are both college basketball guys. How good do you think the local teams can be?
Well, I'm very surprised at how good Tulane is.
Right.
I mean, that's really a great rebuilding job that Ron Hunter's done.
Right.
They're legit. I mean, they're really good offensive team. I think McMahon at LSU has got a big challenge.
Yes.
It's a very competitive conference.
It's a tough conference.
That side of the conference is particularly tough. But what he's done, just rebuilding that roster when he had really no scholarship players, I think there's reason to be optimistic about all these teams.
Right.
What Loyola's doing is amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, that cupboard was pretty bare.
Yeah. They lost their best players.
Yes, so those guys are all playing Division I
exactly.
Basketball now. So there's no doubt. And it's funny, Eric. I mean, college basketball is really good right now. You just don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But I do think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. I'm really looking forward to this Tulane-Houston game next week.
Right.
Because I think we're going to get a good gauge. I mean, Houston might be a Final Four team. They're definitely a contender.
They're that good, yeah.
They're that good. Now, what's that game going to be like? I think we'll get a gauge of Tulane.
It's amazing. Growing up in this state, growing up in this city, college basketball was huge. Even when the Jazz were here, college basketball was huge. Again, you had big crowds when Dale Brown brought his teams here. Tulane was competitive. UNO again, was competitive as well. And people went and saw the games. People don't go see college basketball now in this town. It's crazy.
No, I know. I'm with you. And I remember going to games when Tim Floyd at UNO rocking.
Right.
I mean, those games were incredible. And there's really nothing like a great college, like interconference college basketball game.
And you come from Louisville,
right?
Which again has a great pedigree.
Yeah, the environment, the atmosphere, the energy, the intensity on every possession.
Right.
It's just a different game than the NBA. It's a totally different game. And I hope we can get back to that. I think there's a chance that happens here, and get these programs to where they're the anchor.
Yes.
And we start seeing these local recruits stay home.
I agree.
Because I think eventually when the NBA gets around to opening it back up for high school players to go, I think that's going to help college basketball because we're going to have a little more stability and continuity.
Right, especially with NIL now. I think that's going to help as well. And of course, I think we're going to see, especially at Tulane, a more emphasis on the program across the board. Obviously, we're seeing at LSU with the women's teams and the men's team, really playing. That's back there, and of course, I think that Coach Sless does a great job at UNO.
He's the best.
He's just an underrated coach here in New Orleans.
And look, I think Kim Mulkey could win a national title sometimes very soon at LSU. The way she's building that program.
The new girl she's got, I forget her name now, has been dominant. The kid that she brought in.
And I think just her pedigree has lifted that program, and again, it goes back to the change they made at the top, and Scott Woodward, the hires he's made. He's hit home runs on almost every one of them.
There's no doubt about it. Jeff, thanks for being with us.
Sure. Thanks,
Always
Eric.
appreciate your time. Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com, Times Picayune, and also, again, Fox 8 Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, so many ways to catch our program now. We are so blessed with all the rebroadcasts. There's a QR code on your screen right now. Hey, click that with your phone. It'll take you either to my website or the WLAE-TV YouTube page. And of course, you'll be able to find out all the times that we're on. Hey, pick your time, set the DVR, or watch us at your leisure. Catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. That's weekdays 4 to 6. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, the 106.1 website. Anchor is our home base for our podcast. We're on all podcasting platforms. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms for the radio show. Want to thank our folks here at WLAE-TV who do a fantastic job. And, of course, our underwriters who make this show possible. Please support our underwriters. Thanks again to the staff here, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, and our director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. For Jeff Duncan, I'm Eric Asher. We appreciate you watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We're back next week with another edition. Thanks.